Once again, I want to welcome everyone to the 2013-2014 Arlington Independent School District's annual State of the District Luncheon. Every year, it's really a clear indication that education in Arlington is moving in the right direction. We especially want to thank all of the teachers, administrators, and friends that are concerned about the advancement of education in Arlington. We want to thank you for being here today, especially when we know it's only a few days before the start of the school year. It's hard to believe that here we are again. The community, and especially our children, are very thankful for your efforts, and a special thanks to each and every one of you for all that you do. We also want to take the time to thank all of our elected officials for their service and for their support of this important event. West Jurey, in just a few minutes, will take the time to recognize those that are with us today. Now, as Chair-elect of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce, I sincerely want to extend a special thanks to all the businesses and business leaders that are here today. Now, we know the importance of the message that we're going to hear today and the fact that AISD is preparing many of our future workforce. So a special thanks to each of you that are here. So at this time, I would like to introduce the President and CEO of the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. He's going to acknowledge our sponsors and introduce you to some very special guests. So please welcome West Jurey.
Let me begin by introducing you to our special guests at the speakers table, Senator Wendy Davis, Senator Kelly Hancock, State Representative Bill Zedler, State Representative Chris Turner, our Mayor, the Honorable Robert Cluck, some very special guests, our relatively new President of UT Arlington, although at the speed he's moving, I'm going to say it's not quite that new anymore, Vistop Kabati. President of Tarrant County Southeast Campus, and I think your new tag got removed a few months ago, Bill Capola. And the man you'll hear from later, our Superintendent, Marcelo Cavazos. Well, this truly is a community event. It's a community event because, as our school board has said, it takes the entire community's commitment to ensure the quality of our educational systems. But I have to also acknowledge the guests at the head table because I've not seen the level of interaction between our university, our community college, and our public school system in the 12 years I've been here as I have today. And that, again, is a tribute to the leadership of the educational leaders in our community. It's also a tribute to the school board, and so I'm pleased that we're going to have, in effect, two speakers today. We're going to begin with Bowie Hogg, President of the Board of Trustees, who has some comments to make before his introduction of our superintendent. Now, there are a lot of things we could say about Bowie Hogg. He's been a TV star and a personality. He's, once upon a time, was a young man for Arlington. Bowie, young is not, you're on the cusp. You're going down that road with me. I'm a little further ahead of you, but you're going down that road. But what I will tell you personally about Bowie is he's as committed as anyone I've worked with as a member of a board of trustees in terms of truly caring about the community he serves and caring about every student and what we're doing to impact their lives and their future. He's indicative of the kind of board of trustees we have leading Arlington ISD today. Please join me in a warm welcome for the President of the Board of Trustees, Bowie Hogg.
What a difference a year can make. First time we sold it out was last year. What also coincided? Achieve Today, Excel Tomorrow strategic plan. If you aren't tired of hearing that name yet, you should be. But I'm just warning you, it's not over yet. We're continuing. A year ago at this event, we rolled out our Achieve Today, Excel Tomorrow strategic plan. You've heard all about it, we've promoted it, and we're in year 2 now of our strategic plan. And as we go, it's a 3-year plan. We've already started a discussion of how do we build the next 5-year plan, the next 10-year plan. This plan is about putting the board on that visionary level that we need for the community. So I have to take this minute And I would ask all my board members to please stand up. Vice President Jamie Solons, our Secretary Aaron Reich, our Assistant Secretary Gloria Pena, Peter Barron, Tony Pompa, and Mr. John Hibbs, who had to fly out to San Francisco this morning. These are my colleagues, which are wonderful to work with. We call it a team of 8 with our Dr. Cavazos. So Dr. Sia would ask you, please stand up. Our team of 8 works on the vision of this district. How do we guide the district to give the best back to not just the students, not just the parents, the entire community? It's about those parents who don't have kids in the schools anymore. It's about the parents who do have kids. It's about the businesses in town, and most importantly, it's about the students that we're training in these schools. We're focused on improvement. How do we build this? And I wanted everyone to stand, because if you had to say 2 words about our group, we're reform-minded, we're about reform. We're not afraid to make changes. How do we look at new things? How do we go in new visions? How do we take shots and maybe miss? Hopefully hit more than we miss, right? Team, that's what we're looking for. And the next word I would say that describes our board and our leadership team is progressive. We're not afraid. We're gonna take new ventures. We admit we have to find new ways to do things. Thank you. You all can sit down. I've never met a harder working team in our group. We're moving the district towards becoming a premier school district. So what are some of the things we've done this last year at that 50,000-foot level? Our legislators up here in the front can tell you, we took one of the most active roles we've ever taken in the legislative session this last year. And yes, we knocked on your doors. Yes, we sent many people to your doors. And no, we're not going to stop. Yes, we will coordinate our teachers to call you. Yes, we will coordinate our parents to call you. Yes, we will get Mr. Pompa's 5 daughters to even call you. We've had a major impact on the legislative affair. One of the things we're rolling out this next year into all of our 8th grade classes is an 8th grade career and college focused course. The legislature almost passed it this year. I think they'll be pass it and model after Arlington in the 2015 session. We had impact on major legislation. The AISD is in one of the best financial situations we've been in many years, due to the legislature and also due to a very efficient use of dollars within our board. When we developed a strategic plan, we really worked and were impacted on what's the student impact. And one of the things that we've created that's been a major focus is how do we get more student impact? How do we find out what more students look for? Some of our students are here today. If you would please, our Student Leadership Advisory Board, would you please stand? We've got 3. Stay standing just a second. This is a brand new committee we created last year. We have 1 student from each of the 6 high schools that's assigned to a board member. And then they elect one from the previous year to be the president. Our president this year, Mr. Majay Clements from Seguin High School. And then 2 of our members, Hector Gomez, please stand. And Del Renee Wynn, please stand. Majay, did I miss anyone else? Okay, good. We have 6 and 3 of them could be here today. These students come and meet with the board and give us student impact. How's this going to impact students? How do they want to see more rigor in the classroom? How do they want to be impacted in what's happening? It's resulted in feedback. These students also put on our first ever, they call them speak up meetings, also known as town hall meetings. Getting student impact and student input and parent input at each of the 6 high schools so we can make sure we have that presence in our community. What are some of the other things we focused on? Not a lot of boards in this state and this country like to do things called audits. And this is a curriculum audit. We put a lot of impact and just received back our 1,000-page curriculum audit. What does that do? When you do an audit, what comes out? Some of the negative. You find out some of the things that's exposed in the district. What do we need to do to get better? How do we need to take that focus? It takes a very strong leadership team to say, we're going to spend money to do this, and now we're going to impact it and go forward, and how do we make this essential to our district. I commend our board on doing this. We're also in the factor right now of a facilities audit. We want to be a premier district. What do we have to do? How do we have world-class facilities so that we attract new parents and new families to Arlington? A lot of studies out there show 35% of your property value is determined by how the public schools rate. We know that. Public school is not just for those that are in school. It's for the entire community. With that, we've done a facility assessment. It looks at our physical condition, our educational adequacy, and setting standards for what is really world-class facilities. With that, we've created a committee of 38 people, from principals to teachers to community members to UTA representatives to TCC to chamber. They're going to come together and have recommendations of what the board needs to be done. Our plan is to have that completed in January of 2014. Always on the forefront for the board is our financial stability and responsibility. We are good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. We have not asked for a tax increase with the old tax rollback election. We've kept our property value. We've kept our tax rate at a $1.04 level. We've also funding improvements while keeping a balanced budget. We've also increased our pay to attract new young teachers, having the top-rated starting teacher salary in the community. Community engagement. We've put a major focus on many things. We sought more inputs from the community and community groups. Just recently, we were notified by the North Texas Area Association of School Boards. In April, we'll be hosting an event to teach other school districts around the North Texas area of how to engage with other community partners. From TCC to UTA to other groups we work with, it's essential on how you build your growth through that. But the most important thing we do is hire a superintendent. And I like to think we hired the best. And if in the last year you haven't noticed that, just name the day and I'll walk you around the school. So with that, I get to introduce one of the most engaging leaders I've ever met, a man who is constantly visible in our schools. He's focused on improvement for each and every student. He's active in the community as a member of the Rotary Club, the Greater Arlington Lions Club, and Knights of Columbus, serves on the board for the Arlington Chamber, AISD Education Foundation, River Legacy Foundation, Salvation Army's Youth Education Town, and United Way of Tarrant County. He's also got 2 children in the AISD. And more importantly, he's dedicated to Arlington, and he's dedicated to the community, and he's dedicated to education. With that, it's a distinct honor on behalf of the Board of Trustees to introduce you to your keynote speaker of the State of the District today, Dr. Marcelo Cavazos.
I do want to thank you for attending, for your support, for selling this event out again. I really want to thank the Chamber. This year, they stepped up to a challenge, and you know that much of my focus is on students and their outcomes. And so this year, Wes agreed, and actually he came to this idea with me, to donate the money, the proceeds to scholarship. Is that right, Wes? I'm not putting you on the spot, am I? Okay, good. To donate all the proceeds to scholarship for students. And so, Wes, I appreciate that. I appreciate your continued support. So, let's move along. And the slides that I'm looking at are over there. So if I'm looking over there, don't think that there's somebody in trouble or anything over here. It's just I'm trying to capture the slide. So it's important, I think, to remind everyone the vision of our school district and what we're trying to accomplish. And the AISD is to be globally acknowledged as a premier school district. And globally acknowledged as premier school district is a lofty, lofty vision. But it's one that has been set and one that we're striving to meet. Our mission is important for you to know because there'll be an activity here in just maybe 20 minutes, so you get time to relax a little bit. But the mission of our school district is to empower and engage all students to be contributing, responsible citizens reaching their maximum potential through, and those 3 words are bold, through relevant, innovative, and rigorous learning experiences. Relevant, innovative, and rigorous learning experiences are important for our students in order for them to be successful in their career or workplace of their choice. So, you've heard this before, and as a reminder, our framework for success includes inspired learners, effective leadership, and an engaged community. And so today, the presentation is framed around those three components that are so necessary for school success and for students to have success. And so you'll see that we have a whole section on inspired learners, a whole section on effective leadership, and a whole section on an engaged community. And so you know that when we get to engaged community, we're getting to the last part of the presentation so that you can keep track of where we are. I try to help you as much as I can. So you have, as Bowie Hogg showed you, you have highlights of year one. And I remember standing here with principals and others in this room indicating that this is a 3-year plan. Well, year one is completed. And so we've got 2 more years in this 3-year plan. And so you have the highlights, and I won't go over all of them, but you have it as a publication. So you can see the highlights of year one. And I'll speak to some of that here in just a minute. I'll also tell you that in September, there'll be an comprehensive annual report that'll be published for the community to look at and to examine our progress with our strategic plan and how we've met our objectives. We have a strategic plan website as part of our website, and I would say that this is a demonstration of our transparency, of our communication to the community and to anyone who's interested about our strategic plan. And so if you notice, that's a screenshot of our website. And if you notice on the right-hand side of that screenshot, you'll see a listing of fact sheets. And so the things that we're trying to accomplish, the initiatives that we're implementing, if you're ever interested in what does that mean, what is MPE, what is a facility assessment, what is a curriculum audit that Bowie just referenced, there's a fact sheet on every one of those initiatives. And I encourage you to take some time to look at that and see the transformation that's occurring in our school district. There's also every board presentation regarding our progress and how we're doing to meet our objectives. Also, there's a links to our metrics and how we're keeping track of our measurement and our progress. And so this strategic plan website is important, I think, because it demonstrates that to our community, we're transparent, the good and the bad, including every presentation we've done to the board and all the results for our community engagement, all the results for student surveys and things like that on our website. So I encourage you to look at that. All right, section 1 and the first part of our framework is inspired learners. And this is, you know, if I have to have a favorite, this would be it, because this has to do directly with our students and their success and their progress. And we know that the work that we do today is not just for the students we serve today. We had thousands of students who graduated from high school in just a couple of months ago. And so we know that the work that we've done carries on with them. And so inspired learners is an important section. And here comes the numbers. Okay, so I won't ask you to try to figure all that out other than to say that last year we stood here and we reviewed our performance against the state. And it's important to review performance against the state from our standpoint because it's a rigorous standard. And so what you'll see, these are the raw score averages. Now the state doesn't disaggregate the data like this. This is a more rigorous way of disaggregating our data. And the reason we do this is to show actual achievement. So it's one thing to pass and it's another thing to actually obtain more of the questions correctly on the test. And that's, if you think about that, that's a big difference there. So you see that in reading, and we're compared to the state, so if it's in red, it's below the state, in green it's above the state. And if it's just black, it's right at the state level. So those are our state comparisons on the raw score averages. So if you notice that last year we stood up here and said mathematics is an issue for us. It continues to be an issue, but there's a deeper story in here. And that is the closing of that gap, the narrowing of that gap between us and the state in terms of raw score performance of our students. And so if you look, there's some bright points there in green, grade 8, and certainly in grade 6, there's some green. All right, so if you look at our writing, science, and social studies performance, there's some real hope and progress in these areas. Our writing performance, above the state average in one area, at state average, and slightly below in certain categories. If you look at grade 8, we're above the state in economically disadvantaged. And I point that out to say that we serve a large number of economically disadvantaged students. And so their performance is significant for the total district performance. So if you look at science, rigorous assessments in science in our 8th grade, and that's the far right column, above the state in many of those areas. in many of those categories. Social studies above the state in areas and tied with the state. This is grades 3 through 8. So this chart came from our accountability and testing department, so it deserves some interpretation. Well-deserved interpretation, and he's here somewhere, so I better be careful, or he'll stand up here and say how I got some things wrong. But what I want to point out here is that those sum of differences, so when you look at all those raw scores, whether we're below the state or above the state or right at the state, when you add all those things up, the sum of differences, last year we were minus 17 below the state. We had a 17-point deficit overall against the state. This year we're a positive 2 against the state in our performance. And I'll tell you what I said last year, which is we want to be comfortably above the state. We don't just want to be above the state. But I can tell you that closing the gap from a minus 17 deficit to a 2-point positive is significant. And remember, the state doesn't necessarily disaggregate it this way. This is a more rigorous disaggregation to look at achievement at a deeper level. All right, moving on. End of course exams. These are our high school exams. And if you notice our comparison against the state, Algebra 1, we're below the state, but in ELA reading, we're above the state in some areas. Geometry, below the state. In some cases, 4 or 5 points. Very important for us to note that. And very important for us to note that that's the work. That continues to be the work of AISD. And when Bowie talked about a curriculum audit, it's specifically designed to see our gaps and to lead a path or create a path for improvement. So geometry, algebra 1, there's some hope there in writing, as you can tell, and writing is not an easy assessment against the state. Very proud of algebra 2. And those numbers are double digit, in most cases, above the state for our algebra 2 performance. There's some leverage there that we have to take advantage in our algebra 2 performance. So very proud of that. Biology, 1 or 2 points below the state, in some cases 3. Chemistry, above the state. And if you look at the numbers of those students that are taking these tests, these are not a small sample of kids in our district. Look at the numbers of the N, if you will, of the number of students taking the test. World history, we have some very, very strong world history performance, above the state in double digits. World geography, in some cases above the state, a couple of points below the state in some cases. What is important here is all of it, of course, but what's really important is those economically disadvantaged percentages above the state. There are some situations and some areas in our district that we must continue to leverage in terms of overall performance. And so I'm very proud of those algebra 2, world history, et cetera, performance. All right, so if you go to that interesting chart that was done before, our differences, and these are differences among the freshman test. And I'll tell you why that's significant. These are the freshman tests. We still have an issue with freshmen. We're closing that gap. We were minus 51 points overall against the state. We're minus 32. So in this presentation, as you know, and if you know me, I share the good and the bad, and where we're improving and where we need to improve. And so this is an obvious area that needs improvement. However, if you look at that narrowing of that gap, that's important progress, because if we were standing here a year later saying that we're below the state even further, then we'd have some real issues. So it's narrowing that gap. Now, if you look at the differences on all the tests, not just the freshman test, that world geography and that world history and those other assessments that I just mentioned, we're 116 point above the state, a positive 116 versus a minus 51 last year. The reason I did this, and I'll go back, because I know sometimes we need a little review. This is simply the freshman test. And the reason I do this is so that we don't overinflate anything or overplay anything. In our freshmen, our large group of freshmen, we're improving, but we're not there yet. We're still below the state overall. But in all the assessments that were done in the end of course realm and in the high school, we're above the state significantly. So I think that's a good balance, and that's, I think, again, leverage points for our district. All right, accountability ratings. This was an attempt to make the accountability system clearer and simpler. And in a large way, it's done that. I think more importantly, it's made it a balanced system, at least the beginning of a balanced system, so that we can have a conversation about the performance of schools that is a little bit more comprehensive than simply you made it or you didn't make it. We can have a conversation. So there are 4 indexes for every school and for the entire district. Index 1 was student achievement. Index 2 is student progress. Index 3, closing the achievement gap. And then post-secondary readiness as Index 4. Index 1, student achievement. It looks at the performance across all subjects, all student groups, and how they performed. This is looking at every student, every different subgroup, and every test and how they perform. Index 1. There are 4 indexes. In our district, we met Index 1, and all our campuses met Index 1 on student achievement. Index 2 looks at the scores of 10 student groups, including ethnic groups, English language learners, special education, and it looks at the student progress for reading, writing, math, whether they met or exceeded their performance standards. Index 2 looks at every subgroup in these areas. And basically this is, are you performing at the level you should be performing? I'll say that again. Are you performing at the level you should be performing as a student? And for Index 2, our entire district and all our campuses met the standard for Index 2. You can applaud if you want. But I'll share with you, you're welcome to look at the TEA website because it lists every district and every campus in a very simple, I commend them, it's a very simple way of looking at it. And you can compare, make your own comparisons among districts that you think are performing well and how they did on these indexes. All right, Index 3, closing the performance gaps, includes scores of students who are economically disadvantaged and, as applicable, 2 of the lowest performing ethnic groups from the year before. This one gets a little bit more complicated, but all to say that it's basically closing the achievement gap. With this one, our district met the index, and all of our campuses except Ellis, Spear, and Thornton met the standard. And I say that to say that we have some work to do in Index 3 with 3 of our schools. But Friday, when we met as a leadership group, all the assistant principals, all the principals, and all our district leadership, we met right here, closing off our leadership training. I shared with the group, and I'll share with you, that in this district, we move as a team. And it's a team effort and a team approach. And so these 3 schools will be supported, right? They'll be supported by our area superintendents, our other principals, etc. But our performance is as a group. And we don't shy away from anyone's performance, and we don't shun anybody for their performance. We move as a group and as a team. And we have the leadership with our principals and our assistant principals to carry that forward. Index 4, post-secondary readiness. It examines the graduation rate and the rates of students graduated on the recommended and distinguished and advanced graduation plans. In this index, the district met the standard, and all of our high schools met the standard. Before I go to the next slide, thank you. I think that's good. Because it was so pronounced over the last couple of years, I'll take just a little pause here to say that there were probably a group of principals who, in our district, wanted accountability this year more than anybody else. There was some debate in the state whether we were going to have a system this year or not because of the changes and things like that. There were a group of principals that said, we want accountability this year. And the reason they wanted that was because they were labeled low performing a couple of years ago. And every year that it was delayed, they kept the label. And we could share with the community over and over saying, they would have made it if we had a system, because here's how we did the data, and about 10 seconds into that conversation, nobody wanted to listen. Because the state hadn't released their ratings, because they were still in progress. So these group of principals kept saying, we want accountability. And across the state, you probably heard when you asked the question, do you want us to delay the accountability system? Most people probably said, yeah, we can do, let's do that next year. But this group of principals wanted that accountability system to show their true progress. So all 5 schools that were previously labeled low performing have met the standard and are no longer low performing. So I'll point that out. Lamar, Sam Houston, Rockmore, Morton, those schools are no longer low performing, okay, because they met the standard. And so we're very proud of them for coming out of that and making sure that they are meeting the needs of students. All right, distinctions were possible under the current accountability system. So there are 3 distinctions. Again, this was to make it easier. It's a little bit more complicated, but I think it's more comprehensive, okay? So stay with me here a little bit. Each of the 3 distinctions examines the performance relative to a comparable group. So if you are Arlington High School, it's important to know how you did against Martin, Lamar, Sam, Bowie. But what you really want to know is how did you do with schools like Arlington High School across the state? That's what you really want to know. Yes, you have some in-town rivalries and things like that, but at the end of the day, if nobody's performing or everybody's performing kind of average, then you can beat them. But really, what story is there to be told? So this system, which is a pretty impressive system, does the comparable group. So schools like Arlington High, schools like Martin, schools like Rockmore, schools like Thornton, et cetera. How do these schools perform against them across the state? And there's 3 categories. There's academic achievement in reading and English language arts, academic achievement in math, and top 25% student progress. These are distinctions. Beyond meeting the standards, you get a distinction at your campus if you get one of these indicators. Or you could get all 3 of them. Not an easy thing to accomplish. In our district, 39 schools received at least 1 designation of distinction, which is very significant. But more importantly, 3 of our high schools received distinctions. Very strong performance. 3 of our high schools received distinctions. And if we can top that, we will. And here it is. Every single junior high in Arlington, 12 out of 12, received distinctions for their performance. And that is significant. Again, I encourage you, and I would have done it here, but we don't have enough time, to look at that TEA website. Go to districts, pick a district. And I challenge you to find districts that have a couple or more of their middle schools earning distinctions. We have all 12 of them. And beyond that, we've got 24 out of 50, almost half of our elementaries, very significant. But beyond that, we have 7 schools that received all 3 possible designations of distinction. And 6 of those are junior high schools. 6 of those are junior high schools, and 1 of them is an elementary. So I think that deserves a round of applause for them. So if we look a little closer, Bailey, Carter, Gunn, Hutchison, Owsley, and Shackelford, 3 out of 3 distinctions, which means that they met the standard, number 1, but that they were up on the top percentage of their schools like them across the state in English language arts, in math, and in student progress, which is very significant. I'm very proud of those principals and those campuses because they have charted a course that indicates clearly that when this group of principals and this group of schools come together, they are more effective as a group. And if the board will tell you that they came together as a group of schools to ask for a little bit more staffing. And it was through that same spirit of collaboration that they were able to accomplish some of that. And Piercy Elementary was our elementary school. 3 out of 3, very proud of them. Our graduation rate, 3 years, and it's 2012 is when it stops, and they're always a year behind, continues to go up. And really what the story is there is that this is the most rigorous way of using your graduation rate. It's on-time graduation. And we've spoken a lot about it's important to graduate from high school, but it's more important to graduate on time. And so when you look at 81 to 81.2 to 84.3 in our graduation rate, while it's significant, what's more significant is the number of kids that represents that are actually finishing high school on time. There's a 5-year graduation rate that gets us close to 90. But we're interested in it, but we're more concerned about our kids graduating on time. All right, moving on. This is still under Inspired Learners. Facilities. The board has taken a bold step to address East Arlington overcrowding. And if you don't know, you know now, that we're opening an elementary school in East Arlington, Adams Elementary. It's our only 2-story elementary. It's a beautiful facility for students that's coming up in a couple of weeks for students to come and enjoy and learn. So in order to address East Arlington overcrowding, one new school was built. But beyond that, we're adding classrooms at Blanton, Knox, and Rankin Elementaries to open in the fall of 14. And we're adding a new elementary school east of 360 to open in the fall of 15. And a new elementary at Workman Junior High School property the fall of 2016. If you like to think in long terms, think of what you'll be doing in 2016. Don't share it, but think of what you'll be doing in 2016. This is the long-term vision for East Arlington overcrowding. It's been an issue, it's been a concern. Our board took the bold step of saying we're going to address that aggressively and assertively to relieve the overcrowding. And this relief should last us for a number of years, close to 10 years to relieve overcrowding. So beyond that, as Bowie mentioned, we have a facility assessment as part of our strategic plan that basically is going to look at every single facility, and they're almost done with that. And we're going to create a committee, another committee, to look at the results of this facility assessment and begin to prioritize our improvement efforts in terms of facilities. And you know that this work requires instruction, it requires facilities, it requires leadership, and it requires a community. So this is our facility piece of that in coming in this school year. And so we're going to be looking to many of you to help us determine those priorities and set that vision for AISD. Instruction for all students. Very important, and I'm going to really summarize this, is that there's really two pathways here for transforming learning in AISD. One is instruction for all students, and Bowie talked about the curriculum audit. And that's looking at pre-K-12, our curriculum, our instructional delivery, and how we're doing with that. Then we have an instructional model that we're going to adopt, a framework for teachers and the entire school district. What do we expect in a classroom? What do we expect students to be doing? What do we expect the teacher to be doing? What role does technology play in that, etc.? Will be adopted. That's for all students. And then we have another path, an interesting and exciting path, which is providing unique learning opportunities for students, unique learning experiences for our students. And we've started, and I can't emphasize, it's just a beginning in delving into those unique learning experiences. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute. But world languages at our elementary, AVID at our elementary UIL, the CTHEI course, that 8th grade course for career and college readiness, expansion of athletics, paving the road to college and career readiness, support for students, additional CTE courses, career certification courses. The beginning of changing those unique learning experiences for students. It's your turn to help us with this. And it'll take 5 minutes if you're tech savvy to help us with answering a very important question that we're posing to our teachers, we pose to our leadership team, answering the question of what are those unique learning experiences that AISD students should have in order to meet our mission? What are the unique learning experiences students should have to meet our mission? There's an iPad on every table. They're not to leave the room. Lin Nguyen is the PDC manager over there, and he will watch you. Now, there's an iPad on every table. They're not gifts. I'll say that again. There so you can answer the question and give us some real-time feedback very quickly, because this is an outstanding way of getting the feedback from the community and your interests. So what should those student learning experiences be in AISD in order to meet our mission? So Leslie is going to help us with that. We have some responses now, and we're going to go through just a few of them, and then we're going to keep moving. So Leslie, you want to read some of those?
Yes. Develop analytical thinking skills of our students. More SAT preps. Help students and families be better college and career ready. Real-world experience based on internships, interaction with AISD administration, and civic skills training. More technology in the classrooms and more support for gifted and talented students. College alternative training programs for those interested. More hands-on technology, iPads versus books. Balance academic support for all subpopulations. Outdoor learning environments, hands-on mentoring, more community involvement. Financial management classes. Life skills, World Language Immersion, a district-wide Career and Technology Center, expansion of AVID pre-college program, study abroad, collaboration between the district and the Arlington businesses in a way that students become aware of job opportunities that exist right here.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for participating. This is the type of input that we want in those two paths. One is instruction for all students, and we pretty much have our feedback on that from our curriculum audit and instructional model. But what's important for the community to help us frame is what are those unique learning experiences for students? And that's really the value of this. By the way, we're going to ask our teachers in about a week, we're going to have a virtual convocation, which means we're going to broadcast live from one location to all our locations, assuming it works, but I'm sure it will. It will. I keep asking Leslie and Chad, is it going to work, and they say yes. I may be just talking to myself, but we're going to broadcast to all, and we're going to ask them the same question so that we get to frame around what are those unique learning experiences for students. All right, we're moving on to effective leadership. It won't take as long as inspired learners, so we're second, third of this. All right, we are partnering with Studer Group and the Studer Education Group. And if you're not familiar with Studer, Studer is huge in the healthcare services. And their part is on leadership development, customer service, and outcomes. And so we have partnered with Studer, which is we're the only district in the state of Texas that's partnering with Studer Education. And if you're not familiar with Studer, Quint Studer is renowned in the healthcare world, right, Mayor? We had a conversation, the mayor, in his involvement in the medical side of things. Studer is huge. And so we're partnering with them. And so you can't read that, but these are our questions that we asked our employees, because we're asking our employee and employee engagement about their workplace condition. And I'm going to go quickly through these. This is how the results came out, which doesn't mean much if you don't have the questions, but I will tell you, that's just a little side note in case you didn't catch it. I will tell you that we have comparable data with other districts across the nation. And so our effort with our school board and our expectation is that we not only compare within the district, which only is so limiting, but we compare against the state, and then we compare against districts throughout the nation. And again, these are bold efforts that many districts wouldn't do. They're just comfortable comparing within a district. We're pushing those extremes there. So that's how we compare against other districts across the nation that are working with Studer when they first did the employee engagement. So it gives us a sense of what type of improvement we should have. And so that green line is the performance of the superintendent in these questions, because every questionnaire, every form, every survey form had questions about the superintendent. Specifically, 3 questions. I thought 1 was enough, but they wanted 3 questions about the superintendent. And so I show you this only to show you that there is room for my improvement. And the expectation from the board and the community, et cetera, is for me to continue to improve, just like our schools and our principals. So here's what our employees told us. We asked them, and by the way, they answered in the thousands, okay? So it was resounding. But here's what they told us, things that were working well. Resources and processes are in place and available. Good decisions are being made concerning the expenditure of funds. And the expectations for job performance are clearly communicated. Those are the things that our employees in the thousands told us were good. The same vein, the things they told us we could improve. Specific feedback focused on helping employees improve performance. How do I improve as an employee my performance? Specific feedback on the strengths of employees, and then input from employees for decisions affecting their job. And so these are areas that we can improve upon. So what are we doing as a result of this? We're doing something about it. And I said that last year, and I continue to say that when I meet with different individuals and groups, is that it's important to gather the data, but it's more important to do something about the data. Do something, take some action. So these are our improvement plans right here for our principals and myself and our district, is to improve in these areas. We're happy with the fact that these came up to be the top 3, but we also know we have room for improvement. And by the way, we're going to ask them again. And I shared with staff that we're going to keep asking them until we continue to improve as a system, and not to be shy about giving us their response, which, by the way, they're not. So leadership development. Studer is going now to phase 2 of their leadership development with our district, with evidence-based leadership. We have an aspiring principal and aspiring assistant principal academy. Growing our own talent in the district is important. Providing the support and the training and the leadership development of our staff is critical. We owe it to our staff, but more importantly, we owe it to our students to provide that leadership training. Managed performance empowerment, giving principals who earn performance standards more autonomy to run their schools. Highly important. Big steps, by the way. Big steps challenging a bureaucracy, a school system. When a school has an autonomy because they've earned it to say, I don't want that FTE or that position, if you will. I want the money so I can do something else in our school. So I don't want this position, and every school has to have one, but I don't want it, I want the money. That challenges the system, but it also helps principals and campuses grow and develop. We're partnering with Raise Your Hand Texas. They're providing some support for our principals to develop as leaders, and to our area superintendents as well, because our training never ends, never stops. The other logo on the side, if you don't recognize it, is Harvard. And so we put that up there because we've had 2 principals selected to go to Harvard leadership training. How is that significant? It re-energizes our leadership base, that they're able to go and bring back some of the skills necessary to run a school and to be visionary leaders. We have effective board governance, and Bowie talked about this, and I want to make sure that we revisit this a little bit so you know that effective leadership doesn't just apply to the teachers, the principals, to me, et cetera. It applies to all of us. And we have effective board governance in the area of policy. That MPE policy, giving schools autonomy, is a board policy. The board has to adopt a policy to grant autonomies to schools beyond and around some of those policies. It's a big step. It's a big trust step for our board. Direction, and Bowie mentioned this earlier. A board that has taken a bold step about providing our district and our community, our educational system, direction, where we want to go. Investment, and I can't say enough about the investment part. We've been through budget cuts. Many districts are still going through budget cuts. And we've done our share, and we continue to look for efficiencies and continue to cut the budget. But this board has said, wisely, that when people are cutting and where budgets are being reduced, you have to invest, or you'll fall further behind. And so it's kind of counterintuitive, but if you look at business and their leadership, in some cases, corporate world, when there are massive reductions, they're still investing in research and development and things because they know that there'll be an upswing. And so our school system is very similar. Our board has invested in a strategic plan, in leadership development, in unique opportunities for students in a tremendous way. It takes courage. So there they are. And me too. So let's give them a round of applause. This is the team. And I've said it before and I'll say it again publicly, that many times in school systems, and just look around, read the news, many times in school systems, the community, staff, even students sometimes, they question, is that a superintendent? Who wants this? The superintendent or the board? Or a few board members? Who's asking, who wants MPE? Who wants a strategic plan? Is it the superintendent or is he really sold and all this kind of stuff? We have eliminated that from our discussion. We, as a team, want the things we're talking about because we develop it together, because there's a high level of trust and commitment and dedication. And so if you look around and that split that happens, that light that shines sometimes between the superintendent and the board is hurtful. Doesn't help a community. And so in our system, we've pledged that we're going to work as a team, which doesn't mean that everybody agrees. It really doesn't mean everybody agrees. Just kidding. But it means that at the end of the day, we're all moving in one direction, right? And so I commend the board and their leadership. Last third, engaged community. So we asked our parents, how satisfied are you with our school system? And this is the result, again, overall mean as compared to other districts. We're the green. And so compared to districts across the nation that Studer is working on, this is how we performed with our parent satisfaction. And again, parents, we hadn't asked them in years. Just like our employees, we hadn't asked our employees. And they resoundingly gave us the feedback. So this is our result. So here are the 3 highest, excluding the superintendent items. So it won't destroy the curve or mean or whatever. In a good or bad way, you don't want to know. All right, so the school is clean and well maintained. My child has the necessary classroom supplies and equipment for effective learning. My family is treated with respect at this school. That is so important to our board, to me, critically important. Of all these things that we ask our parents, to me, that third bullet, and it's my bias, is are they treated with respect at the school? We serve a number of students. We serve them from all backgrounds. And every one of them deserves the respect when they come into our schools. And so we were pleased with the fact that that was some of the highest responses came back with being treated with respect. Still have work to do, can continue to improve, but that's important. So here are our lowest ranked items. Again, excluding mine. School rules, discipline plans are enforced consistently at the school. That's an area for our improvement, the consistency of our discipline. I regularly receive feedback from school staff on how well my child is learning. It's a low area for us. I receive positive phone calls, notes, and or emails about my child from this school. Another low area. These are things that are not beyond repair. These are things that can be repaired, can be improved upon relatively quickly and easily, right? And by the way, we're going to ask the parents again. And we asked them, I don't know how many times we asked our parents to fill out that survey. We had it open for a long period of time, online, in English and in Spanish, all kinds of different languages and things like that, and they responded. But that's our work. We have our work cut out for us. But we have some very strong points as well. This is how we compare. We're the green compared to other districts receiving in questions 3 and 13 in particular, because I have to make sure that we're all on the same page that while it was low, it's relatively decent in compared to districts across the nation. All right, parent training programs. We are expanding and continue to expand our parent training programs as part of engaging the community. We have a truancy partnership with Commissioner's Court, Tarrant County Commissioner's Court, a partnership that we developed with Andy Wynn's office and others to deal with truancy in a different way. This is engaging the community in a different way to help our students be successful. So we're proud of that partnership. We have partnerships with TCC Southeast and TCC in general, the system, Tarrant County College. And I'll tell you that the work that's being done between the school district and Tarrant County College, you should be proud in many different respects. 1, as community members. 2, if you have children in the school system. 3, as a taxpayer. Because we have combined our forces to make sure that we're saving taxpayer money, but providing exceptional services to students. And I'll share some brief examples here. And this makes Bill very nervous, by the way, the president of Southeast, because of what the things I commit to sometimes. But we've talked about this. We talked about this, so relax, Bill, relax. Okay. All right, so Tarrant County College partnerships. We are opening and will establish and open an early college high school, our 7th high school for AISD, an early college high school. At TCC Southeast. This is the nervous part. This time next year, we'll be opening that high school at TCC Southeast. And so what that means is that students who are currently incoming 8th graders will have an opportunity to apply to go to this school as freshmen this time next year. And what they're committing to with their parents is to start taking college level courses as freshmen. And when they complete their high school experience, they will have an associate's degree and a high school diploma. And so that's a commitment. And so, with that commitment, highly sought after, these students. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to continue in this path. They're going to be highly sought after by major universities because they've endured such a program during their high school experience. Now, what do they give up? They give up their high school experience. No football, no band, no extracurricular really that you see at the high school. And so you think to yourself, Do kids want this? It's not for all students. In fact, most freshmen want to find their locker, in general. These group of students want to go in with their parents and make a commitment to start taking college level courses. When we talk about unique learning experiences for students, this is what we're talking about. It's not for all students, but it is for a group of students in Arlington. Undoubtedly, if you noticed our junior high performance that I just mentioned was very, very strong, we can generate the number of students needed to go to an early college high school. It'll be at TCC Southeast on their property. Again, the nervous part for Bill. And so he's made that commitment, the chancellor has made that commitment, and we're very pleased with that. It saves us an enormous amount of time and funding when we partner together. You can't open a 7th high school in a year. If Bob Carlisle is here, he'll tell you. But you can't. But with TCC's partnership, we can do it. We're offering experiences for our students at 600 New York. 600 New York is a partnership that we had with the city of Arlington to take a facility and transform it into a facility that serves students who are at risk of dropping out or have dropped out. And so we've collaborated with TCC to help us in that center so that when we're serving students to help them come back to school, help them finish and graduate from high school, that they go down the hall and start applying for college at TCC Southeast. And they get support, and they get encouragement, and that they get to take their classes there. Right, Bill? Right. They get to take their classes there at 600 New York so that it's seamless. Our most needy, most at-risk adults, young adults, will have that pathway to hope because we're partnering with TCC Southeast, because they'll be right down the hall. So they can fill out their AccuPlacer, their testing, their application, and they'll help them so that they can help our community be successful. Thank you. We continue to expand our career certification programs. We're up to 16 career certification programs. And I mentioned them, I think in the past you've heard about these, we've sent out information about it, but just so you'll see, these are the types of programs that through our partnership, we're expanding. Some of you in that first exercise there mentioned the Career Center and things like that. We're partnering so that we accelerate the service to students. So you see culinary arts, heating and air conditioning, refrigeration technology, computer maintenance, etc. Here are the new ones that they're working on. Architectural CAD operator, health professions, Cisco support, video production. So these are the programs that we're expanding with TCC Southeast, and that's the partnership. That's an engaged community. And from our perspective, the engaged community part is not just partnership, it's the outcomes for students. What is it doing for our students? So thank you, Bill and TCC. Moving on to UT Arlington. UT Arlington, Dr. Kabari was just appointed, and so we've met a couple of times. And we had a very good discussion, very, very good discussion. And so it was important that our partnership at UT Arlington go to the next level. We have a great relationship. We work very well together. But then the same question, what are those deliverable outcomes for students at UT Arlington, for AISD students and UT Arlington? So, as he's ready for a challenge, and he has partnered well, and I have the microphone, so that I can say these things. He can't, there's no rebuttal, by the way, so it's great. So UT Arlington partnerships. We're working on an early admission for juniors in AISD to UT Arlington, where the university will accept certain criteria, the students that met a certain criteria, accept them for early admissions their junior year, and then their senior year, provide services in our high schools to keep these students engaged and committed to attending UT Arlington. An investment in our schools, knowing that the pipeline for UT Arlington's success in a large measure sits in our schools. And so the early investment, Dr. Kabari actually was promoting this idea of investing early in our students. Admissions at their junior year, their senior year, they stop thinking about where they're going to college because they're getting so much support from UT Arlington. So thank you, Dr. Kabari, for that. You can applaud for that. Dual credit courses in the area of science, technology, engineering, and math. UT Arlington providing that dual credit in those STEM courses. TCC provides outstanding dual credit services for our students, and we continue to expand. I just showed you that slide of 16 courses. All those are dual credit. UT Arlington coming on board and saying we can expand that even further by providing some support in the science, technology, engineering, and math area. So thank you for that support. And then we're exploring, and this is, the city has to, I'm coming to you here, so we're exploring pathways that link a variety of programs such as nursing, criminal justice, business, science, and engineering degrees. How can we make this pathway to these programs seamless for our students? Through partnering with UTA. They're a major university in our community. Many students take advantage of the university here in our community. Question is, do the adults take advantage of that? And that's the partnership that we're building with Dr. Kabari, et cetera. And a commitment there to that criminal justice, and I point that out not to put anybody on the spot, nobody's looking at me from the city anymore, but Trey with his leadership and others in the department, we're looking at the possibility of a police academy. We have an outstanding firefighter academy, right? And we had our first graduating class of the firefighter academy. And we had a ceremony in this room. The first graduating class of firefighter academy. 4 of them, I think I can say that, right? 4 of them will be working at the Arlington Fire Department this coming year. And so when you look at other partnerships, well, there's the police academy. That's a little different. They require a bachelor's degree, so it's a little further extension, and we know that. And so, but in our partnership, we have discussions about how do we accelerate that for our students, so thank you. All right, transitioning quickly here, so we're getting close to the end. Thank you to TCC, UTA, the city, and other partners that have helped us tremendously, the county as well. So our first day of school, if it works, will be August 26th. 65,000 plus students. Our theme is tomorrow's workforce is in today's classroom, without a doubt. The things I just mentioned about TCC, UTA, the city, et cetera, demonstrating the fact that if we don't start investing now, there won't be a quality workforce in the future. And we're doing our part in AISD by all the things I mentioned, and we're doing our part with engaging the community. So that's our theme. Not sure what that is. No, I'm kidding. That's if you tweet, that's what it is. Hashtag, right? Leslie, where are you? Yeah. First day of school, hashtag Dr. C. Now, you thought that was some kind of new code or something. So I say this, I say join us, because we're going to have a tweet along. Well, how did these people get in there? Well, no, I know how they got in there. They both committed to joining me the first day of school to demonstrate to our community that we want a pipeline of our students to take advantage of their college and career of choice. Doesn't mean they have to go to UTA, TCC, but understanding from the first day of school that the pre-kinder students that are sitting in the class, kinder, 8th graders in that career technical course, that those students are our tomorrow's workforce. And so they've made a commitment, so thank them, to join me the first day of school. We solidified it at the parade. But here's the interesting part. You know, last year I had a whole day of the first day of school, and I walked home with a student. It was very, very hot. I haven't told them that part, but I think they'll make it. We're not going to walk home. We'll walk somewhere. But we're going to visit classrooms and demonstrate our partnership, but not only our partnership, the importance of thinking about the future. Not only for the kids, but for us as the adults. So, and finally, you like this slide. By the way, there's not another one. And finally, I'll say this. We can't do this work alone. And you know that because we've all said it. So I thank you for your partnership, for your attendance here today, and your commitment, and all the individuals that you represent that are not in this room. But I'll also say this. We have over 65,000 students. About 60% or more are economically disadvantaged. And I'll tell you, without a doubt, over the years, there's one ticket out. There's one ticket out. There are many other ways, but there's one guaranteed test, over time, tested over time, ticket out. And that is an outstanding quality education. And so we deserve to be reflective about that. And our students deserve to receive that outstanding quality education because that's the ticket out. But if you think that's the only ticket out and that's the only implication it has, an outstanding quality education for our students has an implication for us as a community, as a state, and as a nation. And so it's worth our investment. And I encourage you to continue your investment. This year has been outstanding in my interactions with the community. And your investment, your dedication, continue that, because our future depends on it. But that one ticket out, a quality education, is our responsibility. Not just mine, not just the board, it's a community responsibility. So I thank you for your attendance and I thank you for your attention. Have a great day.
I think the program you've just heard and the commitment you've seen these individual educational leaders make gives you the reason why the Chamber has made education and workforce development one of our 4 primary strategies. And I'm pleased to announce, and I want to acknowledge both Dan Dipert and Mike Sinattle, our 2 co-chairs. Would you 2 stand, please? These 2 individuals have served as co-chairs of what we've called our Champion Education Committee, and thanks to our board's commitment, that's going to be fully elevated to the Center for Education and Workforce Development Advisory Council, so we can even more expansively support the kind of programs you've heard about today. So Dan and Mike, thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you again, Dr. Cavazos, for what you and what the Board of Trustees mean to our community. You're doing a great job. We appreciate you very much. We're adjourned.